I want you to think back to the first time you ever remember being truly afraid. What was it? Does it stick with you today? This is the sort of thing that we talk about on the House of Asher. Won't you join us? The House of Asher, a clearing house for the mind.
And welcome to another episode of House of Asher. I'm your host, Steve Asher, and we're on episode 4. And what I was going to talk about today was, I know it can be a touchy subject when you're talking about death and how cultures deal with death and how we signify and show our love and our adoration of the dead. You go back to early man, there'd be anywhere from, obviously, they would begin the internment of the body. They would, sometimes put red ochre, which is sort of like I guess from a tree or some sort of resin, and they would cover the body completely in it, and they would surround different things from the person's life. Maybe say if they were a hunter, they'd put a spear, or if they were a chieftain, they would put a headdress or some sort of symbol of the regality of the individual. And I think that happened probably off and on through a whole lot of cultures. I mean, you look at the Egyptian culture, for one. Geez, I mean, those guys went all out for their dead, and it was really funny because not really everybody got that. Higher ranking people, prominent families, things like that. But that was definitely a status symbol. I mean, a 500-600 foot tall pyramid. That's no easy task, and sometimes it took people, and supposedly, depends on who you talk to. But there's a lot of speculation on the actual time it took to put the pyramids together. If it was slave labor, if it was advanced technology that the ancients had, or perhaps it was something from beyond our world. I'll leave it at that. Be it aliens or transdimensional beings and aid or whatever. But there's also other cultures that would take segments of the individual, and sometimes they would ingest a certain amount of that and pass it around to the family, and they'd each take a certain portion of the dead, and to kind of have them both spiritually and physically within them. I knew before that there had been, like, say, in battles, and you failed your enemy. Sometimes the people will take a portion of their body, or maybe take their heart or something, take a bite out of it, to gain the spirit energy, what do you want to call it? The chi of the individual, the life force of the individual. I know around here, being Western Kentucky, especially when you do your first hunt on a deer, it's traditional that you are blooded. And it's going to sound really arcane and crazy to somebody who's never had any hunting, in their life, or never owned a weapon or seen a deer or whatever. I'm sure there's some people in urban places that just haven't. But what you would do is, after you take down the deer, you would go, and as you're breaking the body down, you would take the heart. You'd either cut a section or take a bite out of it, or sometimes they pour some blood in a cup. I don't know if you've ever seen the original Red Dawn, where the one kid shot the deer and he had to drink like a full cup of blood, which I don't know how many of you guys have actually tasted blood. I mean, I grew up fairly goth, man, but I never drank a cup of blood. It's just too much iron in it, and just, I can't do it. It makes me gag. But somehow or another, they were able to kick this back, and and maybe just the fact that it's so warm, it's almost like a really strong broth, because they used the rest of the deer. I guess it would taste sort of deerish anyway. Anyway, point is, this happened with people too, and like I said, sometimes it was to respect the individual, sometimes it was to kind of desecrate them. So it was just kind of weird how they did that. Fast forward as recently as well, a lot of times in certain faiths they will immortalize somebody. Well, go to any church, nunnery, abbey, things like that. A lot of times they'll have a fragment of saint, be it a bone or a tooth or a femur or whatever. And these people have a lot of faith in this, and it kind of strengthens their resolve in the faith. Not everybody gets this. Some people really freaks them out. There are people buried everywhere, even if you meant to put them there or not. So I don't get real hung up over if there's people in the ground. I mean, I don't want to go discovering 50 people under my house or something. But, you have to understand people lived and died here for millennia. So that's just a thing. But a lot of people hold a lot of faith in that, and that's their trip. I know one of the weirdest things that I came across with initially, I was a little kid, and I lived in Princeton, Kentucky, and my father was renting a duplex in Dawson Springs on East Hall Street, really old section of Dawson Springs, and we were just moving in, and I was helping Dad get everything in, and this and that. Well, my dad collected like little lighthouses, like remember the old cologne bottles you'd see, like maybe like Old Spice lighthouses, or cars you could kind of twist the bottoms, take it off, and screw it, smack some Aquavelva or whatever was on back in the 70s. And so anyway, I'm helping clean the counters down, and he had sort of a mantelpiece. So here I go. I'm trying to be the helpful guy. I'm 7 or so. My mom and dad had split right on my 7th birthday, so I was 7, between 7 and 8. So I'm helping him clean this, and I'm wiping, blah, 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 and something kind of spirals down, and looks to be a Polaroid, that was very popular at the time, and so that's weird. So when I cleaned it up and I reached down to take a look at it, and when I flipped it over, it was a dead guy. Okay, let me explain. It wasn't like someone rode up on going through the park, a Stand By Me moment. Hey, there's a dead guy. I think I'll save this moment with my Instamatic. It wasn't like that. It was a person in a suit with a tie, older fella, kicked back in his coffin. Somebody took a picture of it. Scared the freaking crap out of me. I did not understand that. But during times when photography was just coming into vogue, and up to that time, especially if you're an older person, people would save mementos, and a lot of times it would be a photo. So more often than not, this is like if it was a child, because that's all they would have. This little person, they would never have any other memories. And sometimes they would pose them really like they're lifelike, like they're sitting there with their brother and sister, laying their head on their shoulder. And it's dark, especially if you're not ever lost a child. I have. And I understand you wanting to keep memories and things like that. I know that sometimes people would take like say it was a little girl, they'd take a strip of hair, make it into a little ribbon, and make a brooch out of it. Or they would put have a little photo of the child if they happen to have one, and maybe put a small locket of hair. People deal with grief differently, and and it's one of those things I don't judge. But it's really stranger attachment. I mean, it depends on where you are on it. I've seen people spend enormous amounts of money in coffins and mausoleums and all that. Then I've seen some people have relatively cheap, simple funerals, and with the mindset of this was their body. I love them. I wish I could hold them again, and they'd be alive. We could run around and do stuff, but they've lived their life. This is the time for their body to rest. Their spirit is wherever, if you believe in an afterlife, and there's a certain component of that in your heart, and that's how most people keep a fragment of that person with them. But it's really strange, and I wonder, as we get less and less room and less viable land to have cemeteries and stuff, is it going to go to something simpler? I saw where they were taking it was almost back to like an old Native American thing where the body was kind of not quite a fetal position, but they were kind of compressed a little bit, knees kind of pulled up and their arms kind of like around their knees, and they were set straight down on the ground. And I've seen where people have done this and then planted like a seed of like a tree or something. And so as the body breaks down naturally, which, I mean, if you want to get into a conversation about embalming, that's a whole other thing. There's a lot of chemicals involved, and I understand the process behind it. Trust me. And I understand you want to make sure that the body maintains its youthfulness, especially through the service. Nobody wants grandma breaking down. Nobody wants, cousin Ernie, swelling up from gas and all that. But it is hard on the ground. It's a poison. But anyway, they would put them in these little containers, and over time, instead of having a bunch of rows of stones and whatnot, and all that in the ground, the body feeds the ground, and forests grow. So when you would go to visit, a loved one, but you still obviously probably put some form of marker so you know who's who. But that way, you go there, and then over time, whatever, you sit under the shade tree that's grandpa's and spend some time. I jokingly would say, they could do that with me and put a little swing there. Bring the grandkids, a little swing on grandpa's tree. Kids didn't dig it. They didn't see the humor. I was being sincere, and maybe it's just me. I see things quirky, but I'm curious what you think about it. Where's your mind on it? Have you ever had a situation like that when you happened upon sort of a memento of someone that had passed? How did it affect you? And have you done something similar like that? If you've eaten somebody, I probably don't want to hear about that. But if you've done some sort of little ritual like that, because we're people, humans love rituals. I'm just curious what you think about it, and what you've experienced and what you've learned, and if you've had any traditions in your family and from different cultures. And I love to learn about stuff like that. I'm interested in things like that. But I do want to say before I get out of here, if you can, check out my webpage. It's all lowercase and together, steveeasher.com. Go in there and get on the mailing list. I'd love to talk to you guys and join on there for your chance to win free merch and stuff. Also, go to this page you're already on this page, but go to it again. Leave the page, come back, click subscribe, and send as many people as you can. My hopes are to get 100 or so subscribers. I'm about 40 right now, so get those 100, and then I can live stream, and it's a little bit easier for me, and I can take this and do like live remotes at different places and talk about different oddball urban legends and things like that. But please do that, and make sure to go to, if you're interested in any of the t-shirts and stuff like that I've made or anything like that, go to Posh Embroidery on Facebook and tell them what you want. They'll hook you up. Working on getting some more, blanking on the word, sponsors. Thank you. Talking to a few people, and if I get these guys, it's pretty cool because they do some pretty neat stuff and visit some places that I think are really, really extremely cool. I'm super envious. I want to go there one of these days, but I won't say too much until that deal's in the bag. But as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys supporting the local kid, and just the fact that you guys are sharing my videos and checking out my books, which I should mention that my Hauntings of series, Hauntings of the Kentucky State Penitentiary, Hauntings of the Western Lunatic Asylum are out, and you can order those through Simon & Schuster. You can order them through Bermuda Press, which is my publishing house. You can go through Amazon. You can go through Walmart.com. You can go through a whole buku of things. And I appreciate you. I really do. And enjoy your day. Enjoy the daylight hours. And as night comes, look out for the thing under the bed. Make sure you close that closet door, because you did, right? Close it earlier. And most of all, most importantly, stay scared.